Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. Hope you guys have been having a great start to your week and a great day so far as we're about to work our way into our Tuesday. Going to give you an evening update and really just talk about what could happen over the next few days here in the weather world. I'm expecting a lot of storms, not necessarily an outbreak of severe storms for any particular area, but there's going to be a pretty large area that could see strong to severe storms. We're starting to get into that pattern, that time of the year where you just get, just pop-up showers and storms, even on the days where your weather app might say there's only a 10 to 20% chance. That particular day, you could just happen to get something pop up right over your location, so you just never know. But this is really driven by an upper trough, mid to upper trough, that's going to be kind of pivoting through the entire, basically central to eastern U.S., and it's going to be affecting the southern states and bringing a lot of moisture for a lot of folks. That means a lot of storms, which could bring flooding. So we're also going to talk a little bit about the tropics and just show you a couple things. Not spend really long on that, but we are going to talk a little bit about it. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. We're slowly getting closer to hurricane season. Things are going to pick up soon. So I really appreciate, I know I say this every single video, and to some it probably might get a little annoying, but I really appreciate the people who have stuck around, continue to view my stuff, and honestly, people who just made my videos part of their daily routine. That means a ton. It means a lot. And, you guys are ultimately the foundation that keeps this channel going, keeps this channel consistently growing, and really makes this worth it as far as how much time daily it takes. So really, I really appreciate it. I really do, guys. If you guys got anything that I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So we can all look out for one another and glorify God doing it. So let's get rocking and rolling here. And, this is the entire U.S. right now, satellite visibility, a lot of clouds. There's a, if you were to look at this, you would think, hey, there is a lot going on. And there kind of is. You got big time convection blowing up here in parts of Texas, really a large portion of Texas, which is bringing severe storms ongoing right now. And if you look really hard, you'll notice a little bit of a swirl, which is kind of getting covered up by that mid-level convection. But under all this cloud cover, you probably see a little bit of a low-level swirl, which is basically where that low pressure is settled. So in response to that, we've had a big blow-up of severe storms throughout the Carolinas today. I'm pretty sure we had a confirmed tornado just outside of Charlotte really earlier this afternoon. In fact, I think it was around late morning. I think it was the Harrisburg, North Carolina area, which is in Mecklenburg County. So to me, it looked like maybe an EF0, EF1 tornado. So I think we'll end up getting confirmation tomorrow that there in fact was a tornado in and around the Charlotte area, and was actually from the first batch of storms that moved through. And we were really worried about the second batch, which actually continues to move through and has popped off a few tornado warnings. So really the Storm Prediction Center did a fantastic job by not really jumping the gun and making this a 10% risk of a tornado, but really just, they bumped it up to a 5%, which we kind of thought was going to happen, and they just kind of kept it there. So they did a really good job today. But the severe weather should begin to kind of dwindle down in the next couple hours. But really looking at tomorrow, a pretty large area of a marginal risk stretches all the way from eastern areas of New Mexico all the way up to basically northeast areas of North Carolina, marginal risk all in between. So you're going to have scattered showers and storms. It's just getting to that time of the year where cold fronts don't really clear the southeast anymore. So, you're just getting to the summer months, and basically you're slowly starting to get to that time of the year where you just have pop-up showers and storms. Now, this will be influenced by the upper trough, but at the same time, you're just kind of getting to that time of the year where, even though, like I said, your weather app might say a very low percent chance, that pop-up shower and storm might just pop up right on top of you, and you just happen to be that 10 to 20% risk. So also tomorrow, a big slight risk. We'll see if this uptrends a little bit. But really, we got to watch out for flooding in this region. But there's a pretty large slight risk for severe storms tomorrow in Texas. So we need to watch out for this. No particular threat is higher than the other. You got a pretty large 2% risk of a tornado. And then you also have a risk for a tornado in eastern North Carolina, where that warm core low, which is basically that Invest 90L, will continue to bring its tail, if you will, basically the energy east to southeast of the low pressure. Dynamics will be overlapping in this region of the country. Therefore, there will be a small-scale tornado threat. Damaging wind threat also, highest here in the slight risk, and hail threat is highest here in the slight risk over Texas. Storm Prediction Center for Wednesday, I do think it's going to be another semi-active day, but a marginal risk in response to this upper trough that continues to slowly meander east. Slight risk for areas pretty far south. This would be more typical of March or early April, but slight risk up for Houston. Watch out. Day 3, which is for your Wednesday. Then you got the marginal risk for storms almost all the way up into Chicago, but not quite. So severe storms expected. I think flooding is going to be an issue. Right now, this is for tomorrow. You got that, risk because of that low pressure pivoting through. You're going to have a risk for some flooding in this region. My area has picked up an inch of rain today. So we've definitely made up in as far as rainfall today, that's for sure. And then a lot of areas along the coastal regions of the Carolinas and Georgia, have kind of developed drought conditions, and they've received a good bit of rain too, which is really good, which has came at a price with severe weather, but, we're still getting the rain. Nothing too crazy as far as severe weather going on right now. But a big slight risk right now for flash flooding. And what that means is you got at least a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles at any given point in this yellow area. Flash flood guidance, it just depends on where you live and how much rain you've received lately. And that's all dependent on, your National Weather Service for your particular area. And they make the call there. And it just depends on how your weather has been as of late. And basically how much the ground can really hold in these regions. But a slight risk up. And then we go to day 3. And then the threat shifts a little bit east and then southeast, where you have a slight risk for flooding to occur in these areas of Louisiana, Mississippi, areas of southeast Arkansas, a portion of western Tennessee, also in southeast Texas. And then I would not be surprised if we get into Thursday, there also being a risk of not only for severe storms, but also flooding in this region. But we'll keep rolling. I want to briefly talk about the tropics really fast. We'll look at the latest GFS, and like I said, it's one run. And I'll tell you, we all made fun of the GFS because it ended up kind of being wrong with the tropics, with it showing kind of what it showed, basically several days ago with a full-fledged hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. But I tell you, you got to tip your hat to it a little bit. It tried to regain and get back a little bit more respect there at the very end last night. Not last night. Well, yeah, last night into this morning. As this morning, it looked like a full-fledged tropical storm over Alabama and parts of Georgia this morning. When I, was talking about it this morning right over Montgomery. In a way, depending on how you work it or how you switch it, the GFS was kind of right. But it was also very wrong too, because it did not show a full-fledged hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, which ultimately it was not what happened. But let's take a look at the GFS. Getting into this weekend, first off, right here in the Eastern Pacific, south of Mexico, all model guidance love the idea of something spinning up, and this actually being the first hurricane of the season in the Eastern Pacific, which goes off something totally different than obviously in the Atlantic and when we're talking about the tropics. So this won't take the name Alex. So this could really gain strength if something like the GFS was to correct. Of course, GFS is the most aggressive model with this, really strengthens this into almost a major hurricane, weakens it very quickly upon landfall, but then makes landfall in areas of Central America as we're getting into around this time next week. Then what's interesting is that energy left over kind of shifts into the southern sections of the Gulf of Mexico, and then potentially 216 hours out. Remember, that's pretty far out. That's 9 days out. Wants to develop something based off that energy that kind of shifts onto the other side of basically Central America. Excuse me, with clearing my throat, guys. It seems like I've been losing my voice a little bit more in my videos as of late as we get to around the 10-minute mark. But it's also showing a low pressure popping up here also, kind of riding out the areas of, well east of the Bahamas, wants to pop off a low pressure here. So in general, what we're seeing here is we're starting to get to that time of the year where in the long range, the fantasy land, it's kind of like when you look for winter storms into winter. 240 hours out, it could show a massive snowstorm over Georgia and South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama. But then as you work your way into about 180 hours out, most of the time it's all gone. So it's kind of the same thing with the tropics. You kind of have to watch and see what happens, but it will be interesting to see if anything gets going, as it will begin to get into a little bit of a favorable phase as you get into the early part of June. I would not be surprised if something gets going then. European likes the idea of something developing down here in the Eastern Pacific, but of course it's not near as strong as the GFS. It probably turns into a tropical storm, maybe briefly a hurricane, but then, kind of like what the GFS does. In fact, they're in very good agreement as far as the hour as of right now. Pops off another low pressure into the Atlantic side of Central America and Mexico and into the Gulf of Mexico. And we have to watch that to see if that's something that actually garners any attention. But the GFS ensembles definitely is all in. Not completely all in, but they're definitely all in on something developing right here like we just talked about. But going kind of further ahead, does anything get going into the Gulf of Mexico? Does anything get going into the Caribbean? Very sloppy signal when you get this far out. It's everywhere. It's not even a signal, honestly. But in general, the Gulf of Mexico is heating up. Probably about a month and a half, 2 months from now, it'll be like a bathtub in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's like rocket fuel to these tropical systems. So we're just getting at that time of the year where we need to occasionally give you an update on what's going on in the tropics, especially as we get into June. But for the south central U.S., as far as this flooding threat, will start off tomorrow morning. First of all, if you're going to be dealing with a line of storms already working its way through areas of Oklahoma and northern Texas, and then just more widespread rain in Kansas, these will weaken quickly with just morning convection, not really having any thermodynamics to the atmosphere to really build any steam off of. But at the same time, you look at all these showers and storms popping up in areas of southeast Arkansas, the entire state of Mississippi as a whole. You got this piece of energy right here shooting. There's a lot of different directional flows out here. What I mean is, if you look at this, and this is for tomorrow afternoon, by the way, if you look at this, you got this piece of energy surging, basically it's moving north-northeast. And then you got all this kind of moving the same direction, but it's coming from totally different areas. At the same time, you got this piece of energy moving almost east-southeast, and all of this is moving north. So it's just this upper trough that's just kind of spinning around, creating all kinds of directional currents out here. But in general, you're going to have a lot of storms refiring over same areas that have already seen storms. And then potentially, overnight tomorrow night, you could have a nasty line of storms moving through central and eastern areas of Texas. And then look at this interesting little swirl right in the middle of the night, tomorrow night into Wednesday morning, that kind of develops here. Right into here, and then it moves into northeastern areas of Arkansas, then moves to the Quad States regions. That'll be interesting to see if that unfolds. A nice little swirl or something. And then we're getting into Wednesday morning. The line of storms continues to move through Louisiana, Mississippi now. This is getting into the long range. The DHRR model might be different by then. But in general, I think a lot of rain can fall in certain areas. Certain areas could, your one particular area could get storm after storm, another maybe just one storm, but there's going to be certain areas that see a lot of rain, that's for sure. Same issue for the southeast, except over the next couple of days, you're not going to probably see as much storms, but watch out tomorrow across eastern areas of North Carolina. You could have an isolated tornado threat for sure, but pop-up showers and storms for the entire deep south. Anybody could see it. Anybody can see it. The Mid-South, Tennessee, even into areas of Kentucky a little bit later in the evening. And then maybe another piece of energy moves through areas of eastern Georgia and South Carolina later tomorrow evening. But I just think we're in a pattern right now where it's going to stay kind of showery and stormy and very humid in the deep south in general, just in the south in general. As far as how much rain you can see in the south central U.S. between now and Friday morning, anywhere from 1 to 3, maybe 4 inches of rain. Especially, you're going to see a lot of rain probably over the next 24 hours in Kansas and to the areas of southeast Nebraska. A lot of rain could fall in Oklahoma, a few inches of rain. And then basically central to eastern Texas is definitely going to see probably 1 to 3 inches of rain in general, really over the next 48 hours. And then the deep south could certainly see a lot of rain too. You look at the southeast, same time frame. And really this is picking up on what's kind of falling right now. So it's not really accounting for really a whole lot of what's going on over the next few days. But in general, a lot of rain could fall between now and Friday morning. And certain areas could see a storm every single day. And even a good bit of rain showing up here in the Ohio Valley. Much needed rain for everybody. It's always good to get rain this time of the year, unless you just get onslaught after onslaught of rain. So we're definitely going to see a rainy pattern through at least the latter part of this week. And really, it's all response to this upper trough right here. See the blue, keep your eyes on this. And it's not a cutoff low because it's still attached. It's just an upper trough. And what this does is it's a low pressure, and it continues to pull a flow out the south in general and continues to rip moisture out the Gulf of Mexico. So in general, it keeps an atmosphere prime for moist air and just a storm flow. So in general, that's what you're going to see. So, and this continues to meander all the way through to the eastern U.S. as we're getting into the early part of this weekend until it just semi-weakens. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless everybody. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys in the morning.